Human beings will disappoint you because in this video, we see the worst possible outcome take place. Because of one stupid decision, the world practically ends. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're confused, the link will be in the description below so you could catch up. Now let's get into it. Where we left off in the last video, the heroes had acquired a mythical weapon, a freaking dragon, and they were soaring to the skies, chasing down a demonic zombie-possessed centaur, wielding the Holy Grail, trying to stop him from delivering it to his master. And Granny wanted Rose to unleash the dragon's fire on this satyr. By the end of the day, you couldn't just press a button. This dragon was a living being. So they picked the next best option, unleashing a hailstorm of bullets. And he ate them. Back in King Arthur's castle though, Mary was here, standing behind Merlin. She pointed a gun at his head and made it clear, "Help my son, or you die right now." Merlin tried to explain that he cannot interfere in the hero's quest, but her son was dying. Her son was failing this mission, so Mary didn't give a shit. She said, "Help him, or I promise you, I will put a bullet in your head, and I will walk over to your king and put a bullet in his." As soon as Merlin heard this, he was like, "Bruh, that's too far. All this only works if the king is alive." But Mary made it clear that she's doing all this for her boy. So if he dies, all of you die. So Merlin had no choice. Using his magics, he interfered in the hero's quest, putting up a shield around the castle and chasing off or warding off the dragon, blocking his pathway. And Mary was excited. But the thing is, Merlin was absolutely right, because as soon as he interfered, the grail vanished before his eyes. Mary was surprised, but he just looked very sad. "I am a cursed creature, far away from heaven. Because of my presence, the grail has vanished." And so, because the grail was no longer present, this world could no longer hold a structure. So Granny and her people took off, like literally they ran for their lives. Thanks to their dragon, they were able to get to the place with the tub as fast as possible. Rose said her goodbyes and they all ran to the tub. But they didn't know how to activate the magic. They were still stuck in this place. So everyone looked to Granny for help. But Granny was a smart woman. She realized that if hot water brought them here, cold water would probably send them back. And she again was absolutely freaking correct, because all of a sudden they were back home and everybody was safe. The mission was a success. King Arthur didn't get the grail. The world was at peace. And she grabbed the smoke because she had done way too much for someone her age. Looking at Rose, she asked nicely, "Do you mind driving me home, love?" And Rose said, "Yes, I would." And they all set off. Now, the only problem was the Green Knight. But Granny said, "Chill out. That is literally a year in the future. We have time." After dropping Granny off, Rose was about to take off, but Granny said, "Come in. You're gang now. You're part of the family. Let's have a freaking party." And she steps into the house. Back with King Arthur and Galahad, they were all mourning the failure of their mission. Their king was about to die, and Galahad felt like all this was his fault because he had the grail in his hands. Why did he fail? Only for Merlin to come forth and say the only solution now is if someone learns the truth. As soon as someone learns the truth, we can be saved. But he wasn't hopeful. But the thing is, while Galahad was still crying for the loss of the grail, something was happening. The Prime Minister had apparently gotten a report saying nothing happened, just the usual night. But what this agent didn't know was that the Prime Minister had sent someone with an actual camera to record every single thing that took place. Remember that agent? Yes, he was the freaking prick that destroyed the world, because his simple orders were to shut up, but he came here snitching like that was his honest job. His commanding officer tried to remind him of his orders, but he was loyal to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister wanted to know the truth, so he could tell the public and get his voting numbers up. He was a prick. So to protect the world, the commanding officer pulled out a gun. He was about to shoot his mans. He was about to end his career, but he was way too slow because this guard was skilled enough to disarm him, and the other bodyguards came through and took him out. Even as he watched as his commanding officer told him this was the wrong move, he asked the Prime Minister, "Are you sure we should do this?" But the Prime Minister just smiled. "Of course we should. The British public deserves to know the truth. And as we know, the more people who know the truth in this world, the more monsters are born." So while the party was going on, they received the news on the telly that the Prime Minister had something to show the public. And our heroes watched as he brought out actual video footage of the mission they just partook. And Granny said no. And at that moment, Marilyn felt it. The Holy Grail came back. And just like that, they gave their king the grail, and he drank the contents of the grail. And as he did, he was reborn into his new form, the Demon King in his full glory. I'm not even going to lie, I prefer his skeleton form, because this just looks like a rip-off Voldemort. But he still looks badass. And his first point of business was to go check the man who thinks he rules England. Literally, while the news report was happening, King Arthur, Demon King Arthur, appeared on camera and severed the head of the Prime Minister on live television. So now the truth was out. The security opened fire, but the Demon King simply pointed his magical sword, and these soldiers got eaten alive by actual maggots. It was disgusting. He then looked at the camera and said, "I welcome you to the new land for all true Britannians, and anyone with poison in their vein, expect death. Expect death." And he cut the camera. At that moment, our heroes lost their shit. What the hell just happened? Granny was speechless. Looking out of the window, she saw that the world was already upside down. So she just stepped out. She wanted to grab a smoke. And Duncan followed suit, even asked him if he could grab a smoke as well. But she reminded him, "No, you are good. Forget about all this that is happening now. Don't forget who you are." But he also wanted to know what happens next. What happens now that the secret is out? But Granny just took a deep breath and said, "What else? We are hunters. The job continues on, even if the world is batshit crazy." That is the end of the mid-series finale of Once and Future. I will be dropping another Once and Future video in the future, but for now, we're going back to something more upbeat. We're going back to DC.